Okay, I'm back. We are back. Okay, we're back again, and Interstellar Travel is here. But I had to start from scratch. I don't know what all was the problem. Matthew Carey, hello. Krell says, and we are back. Um, so, it says excellent connection, and the sound appears to be good. So you can try to use your phone again,
No, that's fine.
if you want to. And
You're gonna get hot.
play VRE bot says play a song from T and Do. Well,
Get your flute, saxophone, and drums, and
yeah, I'm not gonna do that right now, but because T and Do didn't give me instruments, songs that had instruments with them, right? But I can. Okay, one song from T and Do was to the song to the. It was it was actually taken. The music was from Beethoven. He took Jesus meine Freund, and Do put T and Do had new words put to it. Well, not new words because it doesn't have any words. I don't think. I might be wrong about that for the Beethoven piece. Maybe it did have some words. I don't know. But the words that they used was, which I sing in my Beyond Human profile. That song that comes up. It's a 16-minute video where I sing it, and it goes like this. It's help me have no human ways, no thoughts of self, no faults to see, only the ways of space. Now I know my heart is fast in my Father's path at last. Only the ways of space, only the ways of space. So that was all there was to it. And so that a song that Doe taught us was during a silly time that we had a few times, was like a nursery rhyme kind of song. It was Kookaburra. Kookaburra sits on the old gum tree, merry, merry king of the bushes he. Laugh, Kookaburra, gay your life must be. Bum, bum.
don't do it, baby.
Don't do it. You don't want me to do the other one?
Well, no, the kookaburra one has gotten you into some hot water.
Oh, I don't care. But then the other one was uh, under the spreading chestnut tree with my banjo on my knee. I'm as happy as can be under the spreading chestnut tree. Of course, I'm slow at that part, but that was during the silly time that Doe taught us that song. Maybe some knew it already. I hadn't heard it before then.
I like the good morning.
Oh yeah, one of them that they were trying to give us. They were trying to teach us to get control of our vehicle right away when we woke up, so that we didn't have this lag time. You know how even me now, like I'll be like dragging around, when I get up and not really alert right away, and so they gave us, like a lot of people use coffee for that, and I use some coffee for that too, but we didn't have coffee in the classroom, so they were trying to help us learn to do it with our minds, and one of the tools that they gave us for that was a little song that went like this. It was good morning to you, we're all in our places with sun shining faces. What a good way to start a new day. And then we would get up and like do jumping jacks or whatever. There wasn't any routine to it. It wasn't coordinated. And you didn't have to sing that song. You didn't sing it out loud necessarily, but you could sing it out loud if you wanted to. But if you were going to do that, you would do it kind of quietly to yourself, you know. I mean, there wasn't any pattern to any of that, but that was the song that Doe gave us to help us wake up quickly, so that you're a crew member, you wanted to be of service right away. You didn't want to have any downtime beyond what the downtime was during sleep time, because we needed to have good rest for our vehicles. But we had to also learn that we could keep our vehicles going as needed without having to have a certain amount of rest. Like, you know, some of the students couldn't told Joe that they couldn't function if they didn't have 8 hours of sleep a night. But T and Doe knew that they could function many times on a lot less than that, even like, you know, 2 or 3, 4 hours of sleep, and it's not even deep sleep necessarily. But but for the classroom, they didn't allow us to get that little bit of sleep. So we mostly had 8 hours, with an option for 9 hours sometimes. And then there were options to have only 7 hours and then only 6 hours. And then they tried different sleep patterns to see how we would do with like 2 hours awake, 2 hours of sleep. Then the next 2 hours awake and 2 hours of sleep, and throughout the 24 hours like that. And but what they found from that was that our brains didn't work that well with that, you know, that broken sleep pattern. And so they changed it. So we did that, you know, for a few days, and then they changed it to 4 hours on, 4 hours off, and 6 hours on, 6 hours off, and uh, well, not 6 hours on and off, but different. I think it was mostly the 2 hours, and I think then there was the 4 hours. But then after that, it was strictly. Kathy put her hand in there.
That was my hello, good night.
Hello, good night. Okay, so Interstellar Travel says, happy to see you, Sawyer. Say hello to Kathy from me. I just did. I did say hello just now. And VRE Bot,
Hello.
thank you, says about the song. And then Luigi Carreas says, hi, dude. Hello to you. And yes, I'm shaking up the trailer with my leg. I got a vibrating leg. I don't know if you can see it on the screen with the video going back and forth. You can actually. The microphone's shaking like crazy when I do. See, I've had my whole life of this vehicle has had a nervous condition.
You have rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, I've used it to be a drummer, so I guess that's a positive. But you know, my whole life, you know, I've had to control in the classroom. I controlled it pretty well because I don't remember them having to correct me much with it. It would have been a behavior that wouldn't have been considered to be something to continue. Not that it's a bad thing, but it's a distraction, and it's not. You know, I can control it, and since I can control it, uh, um, that was the purpose. That was the task of the classroom, is to take over the vehicle. So the vehicle was only doing the things that we wanted the vehicle to do. And since we had decided to become students of Tiendo, to go to their program, their process, their astronaut training program, their procedures, that meant that was the basis of what we were going to control our vehicles to do, based on what they gave us on what to control and when to control it and how to control it. So, for instance, pleasure wasn't, there was nothing wrong with pleasure, but in Tiendo's classroom, it would only be the pleasures that the teachers gave us. Now, so for instance, they gave us ice cream sometimes. That was a pleasure. They gave us, we had a lot of dietary things that were pleasurable to eat. They wanted the food to taste good, to be hot when it was supposed to be hot, to be cold when it was supposed to be cold, to be um, sweet, sour, salty, all within reason, and it was based on Tiendo's reason. How much you ate, how fast you ate it, how long it took to prepare things. They regulated everything that we were doing almost. Okay, but when people hear that, they think, oh wow, you were controlled. You were so controlled.
Sounds pretty bad.
It sounds pretty bad. Yeah, every little aspect of your life was controlled. Oh my gosh, you were cult members. Well, I loved it. I loved it. It was great. Now, some people had problems with it, and they left the classroom sometimes because of that. Um, but it's like if you signed up to college to go to chemistry class and whatever, and the teacher gave you all these ways of doing things, and if you didn't want to do them the way the teacher gave them to you to do, then drop out of the class. Especially don't pay for it, and don't become a chemistry student to that teacher. Find another teacher that's going to teach you in a way that maybe you like. Or don't take chemistry, don't learn chemistry, and don't get a job doing that. So it was the same thing with the classroom. T&O didn't need us to be students. They didn't need anybody. The only ones that they knew that they needed was their older members. And it just so happens that those older members came with them to do the task, to help them get started with the task, because the world had become so corrupt with thinking that was not from the next level that Doe didn't know all the reasons why T took a vehicle. He said maybe he needed that help. He said in the Beyond Human series. Um, but it doesn't matter because he loved it. He loved having T's help. And he missed it when T left before he did. But he knew that when T left before him, that that is exactly what he, turn my voice down, control my vehicle, that it was exactly what he needed and he wanted because he didn't, because he wanted to continue the task, which was challenging for him because he didn't have T to check with anymore physically. So that opened the door to him wondering whether he had a good connection in his mind with T at times. Other times he knew that T was actually with him in the room. At least that's the way he felt. And sometimes he felt like he got very clear communication from T after T left the vehicle. Other times he wasn't sure. Anyway, so whenever someone says that we were controlled, or something that you don't know, like I think rise above, who has a new name, mentioned before, excuse me, is that when you get to know Tino's information, and when you listen to audio tapes and you hear the students, and you get to know them a little bit too, you learn to recognize that these weren't gullible people that had no intelligence, no mind of their own, that were being controlled and manipulated and led to their slaughter and victims. Nothing of the sort. And I'm evidence of that. Because anybody that knows me knows that I can be pretty darn stubborn about some things. You know, like someone will tell me something and I won't necessarily believe it. And even if it's something that's, you know, it's true. It's, you know, I should believe it because it's real. It's true. You know, but if something occurs to me that can be a kink, it can be it's a negative sometimes that I can be stubborn about believing something. And I think I'm fairly confident to say that all the students of T and Do had their own forms of uh, questioning things, you know, and not believing everything they were told. That's why they left the religions that they were part of, and that's why they only tried this and tried that, and it didn't make sense to them. So that, you know, Kathy has her story about that, how she was part of the church, different church groups, and she got some good things from them. And but then there were other things that just didn't make sense to her. I'm getting that message again now from YouTube. Just came on just now. Uh, anyway, I still have video, but it doesn't seem to be stuck yet. Oh, there's Kathy Southwestern. She's over here in the chat room like she used to be years ago before I met her in person, before she came to me in to visit me in Vermont and helped me um, break out of the rut that I was in.
No more red.
No more rut. Now we've got new horizons to keep on working towards. And I'm very thankful to have Kathy as a partner. um, and she's someone that's also evidence of someone that's not going to believe everything she's told. In fact, you know, it's quite the opposite. I mean, not the opposite, but quite, you know, I recognized that before I met Kathy in person, that she was someone that wasn't going to just take what I say as, you know, as gospel and questioned a bunch of things. And she had her own mind about things. And every member of the classroom had their own mind about things. And they all had to overcome aspects of that. It's not that you lose your mind. You don't lose your mind. You lose the parts of your mind that are that you don't need anymore. Even though in the world parts of our mind are necessary. But in the next level classroom, what's that?
Grow your next level mind.
You grow your next level mind, Kathy just said. Yes, that's right. You're growing your next level mind by how? What's that?
Losing the vehicle's mind.
By losing the vehicle's mind and replacing it with the mind from our older members, the thinking from our older members. they weren't just giving us thoughts and ideas so that they could uh, control us. They were asking their older members how to do this and how to do that. Now, their older members were not incarnate, so they had to have strong enough connections with their older members on spacecrafts to where uh, they could um, sort out and uh, and sift through the all the negative and disinformation and misinformation and static interference from what their older members were giving them to give to us, to give to the students. And when I say us, and when I say students, I'm not talking about me. Even though, yes, at the time, and even currently, I'm a student. But this applies to everybody right now. Because right now, there are many souls that are in the process of taking over vehicles, because that's the task. And filling those vehicles with Tiando's mind by studying their information, hearing what they had to say, watching the videos of Do and students, reading the material that they put in the Heaven's Gate book, and listening to the audio tapes, and hearing T's voice, and watching and observing how T and Do worked with one another and with the student body, and listening to what the students' questions were, and all that is like we can be sponges for that, and all that, and then putting into effect what they gave the students then, and what they gave the students, what they're giving us now, which is also outlined in the Heaven's Gate book and in the videos and in the audios of the Beyond Human series of um, what to do to be a uh, applicant. We're all applicants to membership in the next level. Nobody's got it made.
Astronaut training program.
Right, we're applicants to the astronaut training program. We're in the program as applicants. Applicants are of service. The next level doesn't, they take advantage of everything in a positive way. So even an applicant is expected to be of service. We're being of service when we're um, applying the behaviors and ways given to us by the next level. And part of that, especially now, the overriding is the way that was written in the Heaven's Gate book. The overriding requirement, it's a requirement for being saved, for a future opportunity to be in the same school, to advance in the grades, to becoming an adult member of the evolutionary level above human, is to accept that Ti and Do are from the kingdom that created this planet and all its inhabitants. And to maintain that and to stand in their defense of that belief. Stand in defense of that belief and accept the consequences of standing in defense of that belief and maintain that stand until we leave our vehicles, however that happens. Whether that's from old age or whether whether we are, you know, somebody doesn't like what we're saying, or from an accident, or somebody doesn't like what we're saying and decide, you know, we don't like you anymore and they want to get rid of us. However it happens, okay. Um, but that's the task. That's the overriding task. Now, that's part of adopting all the behaviors and ways, which is the formula for starting a metamorphosis. Um, which the overriding part of it, of disseminating their information, is part of that also. Standing in their defense is also disseminating their information and sharing with other people so that other people can have the chance, because this is a rare opportunity. I mean, it's been approximately 6,000 years in the making. This opportunity that's come to a head at this time, and it's still coming to a head. It's not over until uh, it's over, until we leave our vehicles, and it's over for that individual soul at that point. But that doesn't mean it's over for the soul either, because the next level decides what to do with the souls, to save them on ice or to give them a task on a next level spacecraft if they feel like they grew to have that capacity. Even though that might, but even though they might still have to come back to finish their astronaut training program, because they, but just leaving the way that the 38 did. I'm not saying just as a like a minimal thing. It was a big step. It was a huge step. But that step alone isn't the only aspect of the metamorphosis. And so you can look in the Heaven's Gate book for the major offense list and the minor offense list. No, the lesser offense list. It's not minor, it's lesser. And the 17 steps is another document that has a lot, it shows all the behaviors and ways that are behaviors and ways of members of the next level. So that, so we've got a huge classroom, okay? But it's all doable. I remember when I shared that with Kathy one time when she was asking, I think, if I remember correctly, uh, what were the requirements, or I forgot how she said it, but and I said, well, the major offense list and the lesser offense list in the Heaven's Gate book. And I think she came back to me maybe a day later or whatever and said, holy smokes,
Yeah, that's really hard.
that's really hard, all that. There's so
No
many
likes,
things in there.
no
To,
likes, no dislikes.
yeah, no likes and dislikes. I mean, it's like, well, that sounds pretty controlling, right? Well,
Sounds
it's because,
almost impossible.
yeah, it almost sounds impossible, right? Um, but okay, now some of this is relative to the classroom that we're in. Um, like right now, that classroom that T and Doe had and that Doe took out of this world no longer exists. Okay, so you can read in the Heaven's Gate book, there's a document that is the guidelines that were given to new members that were joining in 1994. Okay, and it says in that top of that document that this same classroom does not exist anymore. It's not being offered, actually, is the way that I think they said it. And so some of the particulars about that are listed in that document aren't the same as a requirement now. Now, the requirement isn't to conquer all those things, to become a perfectionist in all those things in the major list and the lesser list. Uh, um, the object is to know that those are the goals.
That's
And
next level behavior.
that's the next level behavior, because that by growing into adopting all those behaviors and ways, then the individual, the soul, which is the container that the next level gives to vehicles, that then can be filled with that next level information, that uh, is what is actually graduating uh, to be on a crew on a spacecraft, working in a next level environment with other members of the next level. Those are the basic conduct of members of the next level. So in other words, one of them is that they're not chatty. They don't just talk to have fun with it. Just if they have something to say, and some of them do have vehicles that have vocal cords. Whether they have to use them or not, I don't know. It might depend on the task that they have. But they communicate with their minds, and so part of the lesson of not chatting and just saying whatever comes to your head is learning the restraint of limiting what comes out of your mouth, is actually creating a, a, a better focus with the mind, so that you can communicate your thoughts to individuals in the lab without using your mouth or words, and they will pick up on it. And so if we don't have control of that, theoretically, if they let individuals graduate to be working in a lab in the next level spacecraft, um, somewhere in the heavens, in outer space, um, uh, if we hadn't learned how to control our mind and limit our thoughts, then we would be like a radio that's blasting static, and it would just be like interference to the individuals that were trying to accomplish something in the tasks that they were doing. And they have all kinds of laboratories for doing different things. They have a weather lab is one of the tasks that they have to manage the weather on Earth, for one example. And there's many things. And so so that's why those behaviors and ways in the lesser and the major, uh, um, it's a way of using our energy, and it's being patient, and you know uh, there's no jealousy in the next level. Everybody grows at the pace that they want to grow, according to how they ask their older member to help them with, and the older members give tasks to everybody and give you choices. You have more choices in the next level than, well, I shouldn't say it that way because they didn't say it that way, but you have more freedom in the next level than you do in the human kingdom. Because in the human kingdom, we're not really individuals. We're actually controlled by discarnates and the Luciferian space aliens and the thought forms that are coming from all the other vehicles that are bombarding us all the time with, you got to look this way, or you got to, you got to comb your hair this way, or you got to put on this makeup, or you got to get this degree, or you got to raise this family, or you got to, all these things are controlling us. And we accept those controls as normal because we don't know any better until members of the next level come and say, guess what? We've got a program to where you can actually become an individual for the first time, to where you don't have any of those influences. They don't have discarnates in the next level. They don't have Luciferian, space alien, fallen angel souls in the next level. They don't have negative thought forms that put you down, or like in the human kingdom. You can step out your door. Like I went to a grocery store today, and I was checking out in the place where you have automatic checkout. You check out yourself, and there was a person there that was monitoring all the people that were checking out there. And I had a problem. I searched for potatoes, and I couldn't find russet potatoes. And so I then I said to the person, uh, well, she saw that I was having a problem, so she came over to me and she said, "Oh, you just got to search by the picture of the potatoes," which I searched by the actual words, the title of the item, potato. And I first did it by russet, and I did it. And then I had typed in potato, and both ways didn't bring up. It brought up all the other potatoes, but didn't bring up russet potatoes. and so, she said to me, the way that she said it to me was like, "Oh, this is the way. How come you didn't, She had this attitude, and it was like it. It felt like a put down. She was like, And I explained to her. I said, "Well, I tried it. Why doesn't it come up with, if I search on potato, why didn't it come up with that one? It comes up with the picture only." And and she took a little offense, it seemed like, by that. But then, uh, the next time I had a problem, she was as nice as could be. What I'm saying is, I guess, it's like I didn't, talk down to her. I forgot why I brought that up, actually. Um, but see, all humans are in school, whether they know it or not. It doesn't mean they're learning anything, because you can stay in the same grade uh, um, over and over again. And the way that T and Doe described the school was that it was like 12 grades, and that in the first 6th grade, you get into the humanness. So by the 6th grade, those humans with vehicles, the spirits, that has been growing in vehicles, and whether their souls attached to those vehicles or not is not necessarily part of the picture. But I guess there are sometimes. Yeah, there are. By the 6th grade, they're at the top of their game. So they've got their finances in order. They've got pretty good health. They've got a family. They've got a career. They give to the charities. They're in imagine a human couldn't be in a better position. And that from that point, that's the 6th grade. Now, since the object, the next level, designed the human kingdom to be, is to evolve beyond humanness, they see to it that there are ways that individuals are challenged with having that perfect kind of 6th grade mentality and environment for life. Okay, and so that they're faced with losing all those support blocks that beef them up and make them, into having big egos and whatever. And and so how they respond to those next level stimulated events determines whether they're going to stay in that grade or not. So let's say an example might be that they've got a big business on the Gulf Coast of the United States, really successful restaurant business and chain or whatever, and then a hurricane comes and wipes it out. Okay, and what do? Maybe they have enough insurance, so they rebuild it. Okay, and then another hurricane comes and wipes it out a few years later, and they rebuild it again, and they wipes it out again, and pretty soon the next level is wondering whether you can get the picture or not. We want you to move on. There's more things to do than to just build your empire through that in life. Try to find something new because this part of the world is probably going to vanish. Because the next level is giving us that clue at the same time as maybe you don't want to be on the coast, because all these things keep on happening. I'm not saying that what the recycling, will end up taking, maybe it will be something like that, But I mean, Tiendo used that example of like tornadoes that go ripping through parts of the world, in the United States or other places. And over again, people don't think, well, maybe this isn't the best place to live. Earthquakes in California is another example. The next level is doing these things. And maybe it's not the best place to put down your foundation. Maybe you really shouldn't have a foundation because all this is perishable. Where, a member of the next level is going to have to learn to be happy without, like Jesus said, the birds of the air have their nests, the foxes have their holes, but the Son of Man has no place to lay their head. Doesn't mean that they don't have a bed to sleep in. Doesn't mean it means that they don't put down roots that the waves can come and break down and the storms can come and the thieves can come and, to take it apart. And because Son of Man in that context was next level mind occupying the offspring of a human. That's what that meant. And now I didn't get that directly from Doe. I got that from scripture that when I translated those words and I saw the application of them. And T and Doe did actually quote that foxes have their holes, and so because they said that the next level saw to it that the words of Jesus were kept accurate, and that it was a difficult task, but that a crew was assigned to that task. Now, I want to say one thing about Mark and Sarah. I think that is part of what they were tuning into, of trying to keep the information as accurate as possible for as long as possible. I think that was a good thing, but I think they got carried away with it to realize that to where they were neglecting what I believe is the greater part of the task of uh, allowing the information to go to everybody that wanted it easily. And however, I mean, there is something to be said about somebody thirsting for something and not just, having it, put upon them because the next level values their information. And they know that the lower forces, if they get a hold of the information, the more they get a hold of it, the more they will formulate ways of distorting it. And we see that happening. And there's no way of stopping that because that's part of the program that happens. But see, that was the other aspect that I believe Mark and Sarah were tuning into, the whole idea of pearls before swine means that you don't want to just lay out, you know, you don't want to tell certain things to somebody that is going to make them, not make them, but it's going to give them reason to do you in, to stop you, and to use that information against you and against other people. So that's, but that's, but that's the process of learning how those minds work, so that when we go about disseminating their information, like by talking to other people about it, we stay in tune with those mind, which is on spacecrafts right now. And we don't know that we're in tune with them necessarily, but our desire to be in tune with what they would say to somebody when we meet them at the workplace, or on the street, or whatever it is, we're in the supermarket, whatever we're doing to where we want to be of service, when we're asking them for help, then they'll know that we're asking them for help, and they will give us help, but we have to continue to ask also. So, like, let's say somebody says something on the supermarket line, maybe you're wearing a shirt that says something on it about Heaven's Gate. I'm not saying to do that. I'm just saying that might happen. And they may say, "What is that about?" And you can say, "Well, it's something I believe." And they say, "What is it? What is it? What is UFOs? What is that about? I'm really interested in that, actually." And then the conversation may continue, but it may never go much further than that if they're not asking for it. But at the same time, I think now, especially, uh, my opinion is that we don't want to be that hesitant to talk about it, but then pick and choose the times, because you don't want to blow somebody's mind. We're not trying to, you know, uh, present something to somebody that they never really even thought about at all, considered, because it can be. It's like Tino told us that animals sometimes will have it, like dogs, for instance, might have a strange reaction to us. Um, uh, and the same thing with humans. Humans can have a very strange reaction to certain information being shared with them, to where they could become violent, where ordinarily they might not be. So there's a way of handling circumstances and handling individuals that we're all uh, potentially learning. I mean, even in partnerships, of course, there's ways of handling one another. Kathy and I have things that happen that we both have to learn to adjust and change our strategies, and you know not respond to certain things, or to have restraint in our responses to one another, and and that's all good, and people are getting that in this school that is called human. And
We talk about um, our thoughts affecting our strain.
our thoughts affecting our stream.
And what we do and how we act affecting our entire strain.
Yes, in that school of the human kingdom, it's it's like we're divided into strains, of genetic strains. It's physical, it's mental, both. There's a mental genetic strain. You can't see it, but it's the way that it's comprised of all the mind, all the thinking that has happened since the beginning of the civilization, and and that is even planted here by the next level in different ways, so that humans have the options to draw on that mind. So, so we're all our vehicles and our minds have a connection with different branches and vines on that strain, on different strains. I mean, and so our behavior and ways, our thinking, all potentially, well, not potentially, go out. Our thoughts are real. They actually have substance to them. And of course, the strength of our thoughts varies from individual to individual. So some members, like older members of the next level, that's where there's a big difference between the power of their thoughts and our thoughts. But as individuals that are right in line with taking that step into the next level, because we identify our older members as being what we're aspiring to, then there are individuals that are coming up from that haven't quite got to that place yet to where they recognize their older member to the degree that other students recognize their older member. And this isn't actually measurable. You know, who's recognizing more, and that's human thinking. It doesn't really matter because it's not a competition. It's an individual relationship, and nobody holds anybody back. So the next level doesn't hold somebody back. So even if somebody is a little less evolved in that direction than somebody else right now, doesn't mean that they can't jump ahead of that person in some way uh, very quickly. Okay, but there are different behaviors that are lesser than other behaviors, and so like if we conquer something, if we conquer, you know, like let's say we conquer jealousy, to where we're not letting that affect our vibrations, you know, then we're sending that help actually out to the strain of minds that are coming up in that department, even though they might be ahead of us in another department. And and the same thing when we're not growing towards next level behaviors and ways, we're also sending that to the strain. And the strain is also affecting us, each other. So when people say that we're all connected, they're right. We are. We're all connected. But that's not where it stops. Because like somebody might be like walking, I mean, examples of this is you might walk into let's say it's a coffee shop.
Grocery store, like you were talking about.
Right, a grocery store. And
The way that you responded to that woman, and then how she then responded the second time.
yes, thank you for that example. The way that the woman responded in the grocery store to me at first, that felt very negative, like, very abrasive. And then since my response to her I didn't have any real emotion with it. I was just trying to explain to her, okay. Uh, and the next time she came back to me, she was very helpful. So I guess, I'm not trying to say that I'm anything uh, great or advanced necessarily, but in some ways I think I've achieved some advancement. And that affected her, it seems like, to be a nicer person the next time she interacted with me, and hopefully with other people. She was going to be a nicer person instead of being grumpy. She was kind of grumpy the first time, I guess, may put it that way. And so when we're walking through the grocery store, we can be actually putting out positive vibes, and we're going to potentially get back uh, I mean, we might feel like, wow, this place is like, everybody's like angry here, and we can be affected by that to where we like, oh, I'm feeling pretty angry myself, you know, and yet we don't have to respond that way, and we can recognize it when we feel that kind of vibration, and we could say, okay, well, I'm not gonna.
The buck stops here.
Yeah, the buck stops here. I'm not going to, keep on generating that vibration, and I'm going to maintain my vibration in a higher place to where I'm not vibrating anger, and that whatever's happening to me that's causing me to maybe be angry about something is for my benefit to outgrow, and that by outgrowing it and accepting it as a lesson opportunity, I'm actually putting out the thoughts so that all the people that are angry can potentially have a better chance at also outgrowing their anger. And so, in that way, so at one point, Tiendo gave us a lesson step of sending out our thoughts to people in the world just from our classroom, just from our isolated environment. We were kind of cloistered for like 17 years. We weren't talking to the public. We weren't looking for new members. We didn't want any new members. We wanted to work. We needed to work on all these things that T and O were giving us, and so I forgot exactly what the thought was, but they gave us like a sentence to say specifically in our heads. We didn't say it out loud. We didn't, have to say it a certain amount of times, or there was no logging of it, or anything like that. It was just an exercise to do to the degree that we wanted to do it. Now, I want to take a little side note on that because I was talking about a student that was a former classmate of mine that still has his vehicle. I'm not going to name him right now, but I did made a post because there was an article about him. And somebody commented that when they saw what the student was talking about and thinking about regarding Tiendo in the media, and what I was saying and talking about in the media and in this blog post, or I mean the Facebook post, he said it seems like people in the classroom are very different in a lot of ways. And it was puzzling to the person. And what I believe I recognized from that was that you could be in the classroom, you could be a body sitting there in front of T and Do, and it didn't mean that you were absorbing what they were teaching. And it was all degrees of that because it's the same thing. They're at the top of the strain when they take their vehicles, they take over their vehicles, and they're drawing everybody. So they're getting all the negativity and they're getting all the positivity, both. And they're putting out positivity for us to grab onto. Okay, so that negativity is actually what degraded T's vehicle with the cancer. And they knew that was going to happen. They planned it that way, that at a certain time T would leave her vehicle because she was just to get those started on the task. But um, so we don't. So you could be, it's the same in the human kingdom. Like the example I gave to this person was, you can be in a relationship with somebody, a wife or husband, and you got together, with good intentions and everything, and then thoughts started to happen, things started to happen, and you grew distant from one another to where, got to a point to where you didn't want to be with that person anymore. You know, um, and that's what happened in the classroom. Some individuals got into the classroom and they loved it. They were doing great for a long time, and then, but they didn't recognize, and I'm included in this. They didn't recognize that there were things that were happening that they weren't fully cognizant of, that were negatives, that we were allowing to exist in our consciousness, that was keeping us from uh, receiving that part of the next level mind that would help us continue to conquer our vehicle, to where it got to a point to where there was a extraordinary couple that, all of a sudden something, they didn't put the lid on the ketchup. And all of a sudden that became the argument that ended up saying, okay, I want a divorce. Even though a whole bunch of things happened before that, there was the real reasons, but that became the straw that broke the camel's back. And that happened with people in the classroom all the time, to where you can hear them in the tapes. They sound like they're 100% gung ho, and then you find out that something happened and they left the classroom, like happened with one of the students who I was talking about in this article. You can look at my Facebook post if you want to see who I'm talking about. I feel a little bad sometimes about talking about him, but since he's been talking to the public and saying things that aren't true about T and O, like that Doe became more controlling after T left. He didn't become more controlling. He became, if you want to look at that word control at all related to T and O, which there wasn't any facet of that. They weren't controlling us. We had to prove to them that we wanted to follow their procedures, like that lab technician or a professor in the lab, that we want to learn what they know. We had to show them that. Otherwise, they didn't want us to be there. They didn't need us to be there. Anyway, so it's the opposite of them controlling us. So when I confronted this individual with why he said that about Doe in public on the Heaven's Gate podcast, uh, he didn't have any examples, and uh, and so, you know I hope maybe he's grown to see that that was a misjudgment on his part. I don't know where he's at right now in terms of his thinking. He could have, you know, he could have reckoned with Tiendo on that issue and others, because there were things that I believed, that I battled with, that were like, you know, like T told me on point that there were three things that were going to keep me off the spacecraft of joining the crew. And I was likes to be seen as something special, a little too pleased with self, and sarcastic. And uh, and so I remember thinking for years after I left the classroom that no, T, I didn't want to be seen as something special. I wanted to be something special. You're wrong, T. I remember thinking those thoughts, and uh, and but then I realized that I wasn't wrong, and fortunately, it didn't. I don't know why I realized it, but I guess
T wasn't wrong.
huh?
T wasn't wrong.
Yeah, I realized that T was not wrong. That it was a matter of wanting to be seen as something special. In other words, it was an ego kind of thing. That I thought that I was a better person if I was seen as being holy, like Jesus, for instance. Like I wanted to be like Jesus, but I didn't want to be like Jesus because Jesus had advanced behaviors and ways. I didn't have that kind of consciousness. I wanted to be like Jesus because Jesus was worshipped as a hero to many people. And not that that's a bad thing to aspire to, but in the next level, there aren't any heroes. There are members of the next level that are doing tasks for their older members, and those tasks are for, and the older members assign the younger members to do to interface with the students, so it's not a it trickles down the tasks instead of trickling up. I don't know if I'm expressing that very well, but like in the human kingdom, the more people that follow you as a teacher or whatever it is, the greater you seem to be, right? So if you have 1 million followers on Facebook, then you're considered to be a more successful Facebook person or YouTube person. And with the next level, is nothing about numbers because it's the only your older member is the only one that you want to please, but you enjoy. And when your older member gives you a task to help others, doesn't mean that you don't enjoy that and want to do the best job you can when you see individuals uh, uh, growing from what you're trying to give them from your older member. So anybody out there now that is wanting to be of service to Doe, that is helping other people, there's nothing wrong with enjoying when you're doing that, when you're giving that information out. I think that's a good kind of pleasure. But when if you see that building up as an ego, then tell that to get the hell away, because that's the lower forces trying to give make you take credit for it when it's really the next level older member. It's Doe is the one that you're giving credit to, not as a Pollyanna kind of thing. It's because it's true. Doe is the source of everything for us. That's good. That can be good in the human kingdom. And that's a beautiful thing. To not have self as what we're trying to grow. The self does grow, but it becomes the self of the older member in us. And that's what Jesus was talking about, but they couldn't hardly understand it. Some of them did.
Have you been looking at the chat room at all?
No, I've been bad. No, I don't think it was bad, but I could hear that thought a little while ago, but I was on a.
Well, it wasn't coming from me, because I just thought of it now.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a lot of been happening here in the chat room. So, well, since Kathy and I have been doing these Uber deliveries, and our old pattern that Kathy had found success with was to get up very early in the morning and sign in like 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, sign in and then go out. If we get an order, then go out and do it. And work till 9, maybe make the amount of money that we were trying to make, which worked out many times. But in this new circumstance, doesn't seem to be the case. So now we're thinking that it's okay to stay up a little later and maybe still get up at the same time, but um, just sleep in a little bit more. Anyway, so let me see if I can go back to the beginning. Kathy Southwestern said, "Don't forget to hit the like button, please." I guess we get better ratings by that, right?
I think.
That's what they say. So, the reason why we want ratings to be better is because then there'll be more people that will have access to uh, hearing things about T&O that they might not hear in many other places. I hope they do hear it in a lot of different places.
All right, go through the chat room.
Okay. Kingdom of Heaven says, that's the thing. You have to choose to be a part, have to want to. Yeah, choice is a huge characteristic that the next level wants us all to have. Even the choice to be rotten, become a weed in the garden, but the choice to be good. Celador says, we love Kathy. Big heart there. Big blue heart.
Soul Calibur's been nice to me.
Chump Change says, thank you for doing streams. You're welcome. It's a pleasure. MW1 Online says, hi, Kathy. Bacon Doll says, hey, long time no see. Still like you. MW1 Online says, many claim to Jesus. That's the signing applications for ultimate job. That's right. Applying to the job in the next level on a spacecraft. Working for Doe. NT, yes. And others. Other members of the crew that are assigned to be primaries on tasks.
To work closely with this planet.
Yes, to work closely with this planet and the individuals on it.
Administrator of this planet.
T is the chief administrator of this planet. That's right, according to Doe. And he doesn't say that lightly. Atazoth said, learn from both RHP, right-hand path, and left-hand path. Okay, I don't understand your terminology, but I'll just,
Person was dominating the other tribe.
It says, each reality is an emanation, a vibration. There are endless amount of realities, dimensions, multiverses, time.
Right.
Okay, I don't mind you expressing yourself, but I'm not going to be able to comment on everything because you're trying to. To be honest with you, I think most of the people that come to this live stream want to hear about T and O. So if you want to, if you have questions on where to find the information or whatever, or specifically about T and O, then I would prefer that you just ask those questions. Because otherwise you end up clogging up the chat room and taking my time trying to read everything. Because I don't want to be disrespectful of you by not reading your comments, but I don't have that much time. And there's other people that actually have questions about T and O and things. So MW1 Online, you can work with Atazoth if you want to. And I'm just going to kind of have to scan through Atazoth. I don't mean any disrespect to you in that regard. It's a matter of priorities in my mind. The truth is there. Okay. I'm just not going to read them. I'll just scan them quickly, though.
Oh my, they've said quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Example atheist. Example atheists, theists, monotheism, polytheism, etc. The role it then follow whatever choose for certain periods of time, then leave and repeat. I'm not sure what you're saying there, example. Or I'm not sure what your name is. Oh, that's Azatel saying that. I'm sorry, I got mixed up there. Yeah, you're really trying to dominate, and I'm gonna have to block you.
It's already too late. They've already just.
Well, I'm just scrolling through. I'm not even reading them anymore.
I mean, I wouldn't block them. Just be respectful of other people in the room.
Yeah, you're not being very respectful. That is off. Homo sapien. Okay. Blah 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 blah.
Don't say that. Chris Terrell is somebody like yeah, I think like that's
I'm at the
really
end already.
good, but since that person was saying so much, like there was somebody that asked a question about is the mannequin a vessel?
Well, Kathy in her during her life experiences uh, enjoyed the use of mannequins and photo shoots and things, and so we have three of them, and we were just using
We
them as
actually have four. One's in
oh
storage.
one's in storage, right? So we just used them to, well,
Model our shirts,
yeah, they're modeling our shirts for us, and they just happen to be hairless, and so they,
right?
uh, which is kind of cool.
So I would, if you could, respectfully ask Adizoff to be quiet
Yeah,
because all he's doing is spouting out all other people's
yeah, you're not saying
opinions.
anything out as off that's of
Stop,
any value
or you're gonna get blocked.
to me and Kathy, and I don't, I don't know if the other people on the stream
Right,
want to hear
respectfully,
from
it's
you.
your channel, not theirs. So
Right.
they want to go do whatever, they can go do whatever, but they've completely dominated the chat.
Okay.
That's
Well,
not cool.
this person says I learn from everyone. Well, that's fine, but then
Sometimes you have to be quiet
you have to be quiet in order to learn from everyone.
or just have your
If
own
you're going to
channel.
learn from what's being expressed here, um, then you're going to have to, listen to it. I don't care if it doesn't matter to me.
He
I don't
hasn't
think of
asked.
Kathy.
They say they asked. There's someone who asks questions that most people don't dare. I haven't seen them ask any questions except for spouting out things that other people have said. A lot of Madame Blavatsky is what this person is spouting out.
Oh, that's interesting material,
Yeah, I
Madame
know. I'm just
Blavatsky.
saying they're not.
Yeah, I don't.
There's no questions. It's all just
We haven't seen
whatever.
any questions at Azoth. I mean, you had a few early on before
They're just spouting out their own.
we did the stream inside.
I think you should just block them. I think it's a teenager.
I'm not trying to hurt you. Uh, um,
Yeah, they're
so
just messing with you. I don't know. Or mute them for a little bit. Like, you don't have to always be saying something. When your picture is the only picture in the chat room, that's a problem.
well, I don't know. Maybe it's time to bring this to a close anyway.
Right. So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Because it's late.
we've had a good session, I believe. I mean,
We've got a lot.
I've enjoyed expressing some things, and we've gotten some questions that were, I think, useful and to others. And so I appreciate you all that are hanging in here with us. And um,
We'll stream again soon.
yeah, so we'll stream again soon. Azatol says, sorry, keyboard went wrong.
Okay.
So the keyboard did it, huh? Yeah, those keyboards, they can be, pretty frightening devices.
I'm hungry. Aren't you hungry?
Yes.
All right.
Well, he's asking the question, what am I doing that's disrespectful?
When
Um,
your profile picture is the only one in the chat room for minutes and minutes and minutes, that's disrespectful to everybody else in the chat
yeah, I wouldn't put it that way. Uh, exactly. I mean, that's fine. And, Kathy's got her ways of saying things, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But what happens with me is that you're not asking and you're not debating. You're just you're not discussing. You're just stating. You're saying, like, for instance, you said right hand path or Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Zoroastrian, Buddhism, Hinduism, Shintoism, Rastafarian, etc., etc., etc.
room. Right, you know about
So
every word.
I don't know where's the question in that. Where is the discussion in that? I don't want to have to try to. I don't know what the right hand path. You're not speaking the language that I understand, and since that's your terminology, that's fine. That's okay. Not saying you don't have something of value to share, but this live stream isn't about sharing what you have to share. This live stream is about sharing what we have to share, which is about what T and Do have to share. So, with that said, if you want to come back to a future stream, we'll start over. Um, so it's not that you're not asking questions. It's not that it's irritating. It's that you're dominating the chat room, and uh, that means that I've got to take the time to talk to you when I could have been spending the last 5 minutes talking about things that there's many things to talk about in terms of T&Do's information. Hundreds and hundreds and thousands of things that are so beyond human that very few people uh, know how to think the way that T&Do think. And if you're so full of expressing yourself that you're not willing to listen to those things, then this isn't the place for you. And then other people that come into this live stream are being occupied with me explaining to you how you're interfering. You see what I'm saying? I don't know if you can see that. No, I don't want obedience. See, now you were just wanting to argue.
It's late and
Yeah. So I'm not looking for obedience. I'm wanting to not have to talk to you because you're not saying anything of value that I find of value. And if you're not saying anything of value to this live stream, then really, I don't really want you to be here. Okay? Yeah, I can choose not to read, but there's other people that are putting things in the chat room that that are being wiped out to where all I see is your thing going by, and I can miss what somebody else is saying. And I didn't want to ignore you, but you're forcing me to ignore you.
babe, just let it go and let's close it.
Well, see, you're trying to test my patience, but why is it your place to test my patience?